In this mini presentation, we're going to talk about boundaries. And what we're going to discuss is what they are, why they're so important, how to actually implement some boundaries if you don't have any right now, and then who you need to create boundaries towards. And boundaries are an absolute game changer. I'm a recovering yes man, and I had zero boundaries until very recently. And what I found is that they've had such a profound impact on my ability to be the person that I want to be and to turn up as my best self, both personally and professionally, for those around, but also for myself. So for my relationship, for my son, for my colleagues, for my clients, but also for me, how do I want to be? How do I want to feel? And actually taking a little bit of control of that by setting boundaries and protecting some of my time and my assets has been really, really critical. So boundaries are a means of protecting your assets. As I mentioned, your assets are your time, your money, your energy, your health, and your love. And you need to protect all of these things as if your life depends on it, because it kind of does, or certainly the quality of your life depends on it. Now, they're not a nice to have. It's not, oh yeah, that would be nice if I could set some boundaries. They're a need to have. They're essential because it allows you to turn up as your best self because you're protecting what is actually yours, which is your time and your energy. And it also gives you the ability to be and turn up as the person that you want to be. So boundaries actually are a healthy thing for everybody around you as well, because you get to be high performing, you get to be the person that they need you to be because you've got the correct amount of energy and time to be able to dedicate to them. And they're actually one of the highest forms of self-care. But because of that, they're actually pretty challenging to implement, and it can be really difficult and really uncomfortable, especially if you've never set any, if you always say yes very quickly. So not this slide, but the one after, we're going to talk about how to actually go about doing that. But if you don't set boundaries for yourself, then someone else is going to do that for you. Now, the problem with that is that it will come to a point where you really aren't comfortable with the boundaries that people set. If people don't know what their left and right limits are, they're just going to trample all over you. And what tends to happen is when you do start to set some boundaries against people, you get pushback, and you get pushback because they're thinking, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And for a number of reasons, because it's never been that way. And for a number of reasons. Number one, like you're changing boundary and you're changing what you're prepared to do and not do doesn't suit their agenda anymore, whether that is a friend, a colleague, a boss, a partner, or even your kids. It doesn't suit their agenda anymore. It doesn't serve them any longer because they're not walking all over you and getting more than they actually can. And they're not getting unrestricted access to you anymore. So there's always a little bit of pushback. And that's why it's so much more important, or so important, to set boundaries from the offset. But if you haven't done that, then the next slide is going to be for you. And we have to kind of realize, and this is in line with this little mini presentation series that I've done, is that we can't continue to put everybody's needs before our own, because that means we're not getting our own needs met, which is a bit of a recipe for disaster in terms of our own feelings, thoughts, contentment, happiness, if you like to use that word. And it becomes really critical that we're on a downward slope unless we can start to prioritize ourselves, and boundaries are a fantastic way to do that. And of course, the last point is that you encourage what you tolerate. So if you tolerate people walking all over you, then that's what's going to happen. Other people are going to see that's what's happening. And a lot of people will jump on that bandwagon, and other people will, they'll fight against that. But ultimately, you need to be the one that stands up for yourself. So the big one is, how do we actually set boundaries if we've never had any, or if we're starting a new project, we're starting a new relationship, we're starting fresh on something? How do you go about doing so? And it's easiest always to do it at the start, because that gives you the reference points. And we have kind of two boundaries really, and you've got kind of boundaries that are like a line in the sand, and then you've got a line in the concrete. It's just a hard no and then a soft no. It's almost like, yeah, I can flex on that a little bit, but if I do flex on that, then the outcome will be ... Or if I do flex on that, then can we do this? And it almost becomes a little bit of a negotiation. And the importance of it how you do it, how you have those conversations is really, really critical. So setting some expectations around your assets is important. So a really good way to do this with a partner at home or with family members would be, oh, can we just do this exercise? I just wanted to see if there's a way that we can support each other in turning up as in being our best selves and getting what we need. So you get a piece of paper each, and you get a pen each, and you would write down what are the things that you need and want to do on a kind of daily, weekly basis in order to be and feel great. And you write your list, and your partner writes their list. Okay, great. Then you say what you swap lists, and you have a look through. Okay, interesting. There'll be some things on there that you might not have noticed or realized. And you go back to your list. You say, right, how can I support you on that? And then you write down how your partner can support you, and they write down how you can support them. And you switch lists, and you exchange, and you start to read, and you start to learn a little bit about what someone else actually needs and wants to be able to feel great. And you can then start to think about those and say, right, well, when the shit's hitting the fan and you've got 20 things down here, like what's like that absolute like big bang for the buck things that you need to do daily, weekly, monthly in order to feel great? And it might be 2-3 things, and you might find that you can actually facilitate these things quite easily. You can actually support your partner quite easily. But it also helps to communicate those boundaries and help other people to understand where your left and right limits are. And if you don't communicate them, then people don't have a clue, and that's when the people kind of walk all over you. And it's a really important aspect to manage your time and your energy by stepping back and taking a little bit of time to reflect on what your boundaries are and how you want to go about setting them. So the how is kind of closely related to the who, and who is always a little bit tricky. It's who do you need to set boundaries towards? For me, it's just about everybody that comes into your life. So it's your boss, your colleagues, clients, it's all work related, your partner, your kids, friends, family, but almost most importantly is yourself. So if you have a tendency to over deliver, if you have a tendency to say yes, if you have a tendency to put other people's needs first, we need to put barriers and boundaries in place to prevent us from doing that. So a really good example is by saying a fast no and a slow yes. So you're flipping the narrative. Yeah, I can do that. Or as opposed to, let me just get back to you on that. Or I'm pretty chocker at the moment. Can I just have a think about that? Or I'm prioritizing this at the moment, so I'm not going to be able to do that for you right now. And you don't have to apologize. You just literally have to buy yourself enough time to logically think about, do I actually want to do that? Do I actually have the capacity to do that? If it's work related, can I do that to standard? Would that involve me over delivering? If I say yes to that, what am I saying no to, or who am I saying no to? And when you start to think about these things, and when you start to frame boundaries in those terms, it becomes really a little bit more obvious that you're overgiving, and overgiving is a bit of a recipe for disaster, because people will take what you're willing to give, and you kind of maybe have an expectation that they'll give back, but it doesn't always work like that. So you need to manage those elements, and that's what boundaries are for. So boundaries around partners, kids, friends, family, and yourself are critical to protecting your assets. For a little bit more information on anything that we've discussed in this presentation, you can check out the Wellness Hub. It's an online community where there's multiple different small rooms which exist for you to get really short, sharp, high quality content from from the world of the military, special forces, from motorsport, F1, F2, F3, from elite sport, and from the corporate space as well. So it's a community where everybody can get together and share, collaborate, and work together to just find a little bit more time and space for themselves.